Thank you. Yes, as Miltos mentioned, we ran into a bit of a small problem and some sort of a visa issue. Um, so that's why I'm not amongst you, and I would have loved to be there. I really was looking forward to reconnecting with Agiliki and Miltos and making new friends over there. But hoping to tackle that one day. Okay. This is a project that today I'm going to share this project that was a project that I did during my sabbatical research year, which was a couple years ago. And so I basically, today I will be showing, I will walk you through the important steps of the project, how it started, where it was inspired from, and then in the end, how it got realized, in which formats did it get realized, such as what kind of formats we had, like book, product, etc. So we will look into that. Today I will be sharing this Pergamon, a Greek script typeface project. It's essentially a Greek script typeface revivalism project based on the documentation of Pergamon's elaborate epigraphic cultural heritage. I'm sure even if you haven't been to Pergamon, I'm sure growing up you've heard and you read epic stories of Pergamon or ancient Greece, and it is a research project that is comprised of 5 main components, and it's essentially it started off as a research history of Pergamon. So I mean, I'm not an archaeologist. I'm a type designer. I'm a professor. I teach typography in various levels. But although I'm not an archaeologist, I still did quite a bit of research in the history of Pergamon. Obviously, I read some well-established books and reputable ones, obviously, papers. And then I went to Pergamon itself, and I stayed over a month. And then I did a detailed photographic documentation of the stone inscriptions, which is the main element, the main source of inspiration of this whole project. And then I designed a typeface based on the selected inscriptions. So I created a Greek alphabet that I chose my own best models from different stones, and then I transformed that 2D with the help of my partner. She's an excellent. I'm very lucky to have my wife as an excellent jewelry maker, and she's a jewelry designer, and she also makes it. So she helped me create some jewelry products using the typeface I designed based on this. So before we begin this project, it's a good reminder to know who did what beforehand, and in this case, an exemplary project I would recommend is the well-known author Robert Bringhurst's also involvement, a project that is called The Fragments of Parmenides. This is a project that it has all the found fragments of Parmenides's poems, and it's a typeface that was based on Parmenides's time period from the region of southern Italian peninsula, so which is 500 BC. So we're talking about quite some time from way before the Roman Empire was actually a Roman Empire. This is it. It's a very nice typeface project that was based on, and then the stone inscriptions of that belongs to Parmenides's time period. And then I basically did my own case study, and I went to Ayvalık, which is on the Aegean coast of Turkey, and it's right across from the island of Lesbos. And I stayed over there. There was a very nice artist residency program, a stone house, where I stayed for a month, and then I traveled to Pergamon, which is only 40 minutes away by driving. So this is the Acropolis of Pergamon. And what we should, again, just to brush off our history knowledge, it's the city where, and these are the known, quite well-known features of Pergamon, is probably the most famous is Alexander the Great sheltered his wife, Barsine, and his son during the Great Eastern Campaign. So it was a secure spot for Alexander the Great. The city with the largest library in Asia Minor, the city with the steepest Hellenistic theater, the city where parchment was invented. In fact, parchment, the word par also comes from par, Pergamon's par. And it was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2014. So if you look at Pergamon's overall occupation period in various periods, it stretches back all the way to 400 BC. So, but obviously we don't have any inscriptions from that period. So that's why I focused on the Roman period of Pergamon. During the famous Roman Emperor Trajan's reign, and Adriano's, again, around 117 AD. So this is the period that we have found interesting stone inscriptions. So, and these stone inscriptions were found in the Acropolis, as well as in the Asklepion, the health center of Pergamon. These sites are very close to each other, but they're not necessarily walking distance. I mean, obviously, back then everything was walking distance, but it's about like a 2-minute drive from each other. And this is the classic stone inscriptions of Pergamon. Now, what we need to know is that these artisans, the craftspeople, stone carvers, they had their own, in a way we may call it style, but they had a different visual voice. And each ancient site has a different flavor. If you go to Ephesus, you will see slightly different flavors of Greek letter forms. And I was fascinated with the Pergamon letter forms for reasons that I will be explaining in a few minutes. And this is the Asklepion of Pergamon in the North Stoa. Again, yeah, this is the North Stoa of Asklepion. It's a beautiful place. I hope one day you can visit it. And the typeface. So this typeface, overall, I was able to spot some sort of a visual, what we can call style. And that you need to find multiple consistent, at least minimally consistent versions of these letter forms in different stones from different parts of the site. I was fascinated with the consistency, but obviously sometimes some letter forms were not consistent. It's because it's not obviously it's handmade, so it can only be perfect. But overall, it had these really spiky and crazy vertical serifs that you usually wouldn't see in that period because the Roman letters were classically uh, uh, horizontally constructed serifs because of the brush, but these interesting vertical serifs made Pergamon letter forms even more interesting. And then what I did is that I fetched and I looked for different models, and I chose the ones that I visually, as a type designer, see the links of them, the ones that I was able to visually link them together. And what does this entail? This visual linking? It entails the stroke modulation, the thickness of the stone, the size and width and overall weight. And then in the end, this is the alphabet that I chose, and that's why the colors are different. And then on the right-hand side, you see the digital version of it I designed using a type design editor. So the way how this worked is that I first did faithful documentation. I took pictures of these letter forms, and then I just outlined, I drew the overall outline of the letter form. And then I turned that and I did optical weight adjustments so that it can better perform in smaller sizes. Because if otherwise, when you transfer them digitally, it becomes too thin. So you need to make it a little bit, I at least, as a type designer, I knew that you need to make it a little bit thick so that it can be legible in small sizes. Even then, it's still considered a thin, light font, actually. And the way how this works is that, as you can see here, um, we have the default set, which is the letter forms in blue, and then in red you see, or in rather in orangish reddish, you see the alternate characters. So these alternate characters, I didn't make them up. I saw them on the site. Sometimes they were on the same line of inscription, which is actually fascinating. It becomes really interesting in terms of that. Um, and just to, again, obviously, predominantly almost everybody's mother tongue is Greek in the audience. That's why I was particularly excited to be among you and present this to you in physically in person, because you're the right audience. I mean, I've been giving this presentation to major other typography festivals such as ATypI and other conferences I gave, but it becomes different when you have an audience that almost everybody speaks Greek from their heart. So that's why, going back, that was a small little parenthesis. Um, so just to remind, Irini Vlahou's very nice typeface, Attila's Greek. Attila's, she designed the Greek version of Attila's, which was actually designed by Jose Scaglione and Veronica Burian of Type Together. And Irini, an Athens-based type designer, she designed it. And this is, I would say, a modern, a, 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 a good example, an exemplary modern version of the Greek capitals. And on the left-hand side, you see Pergamon, and you can tell what is happening here. And now we're going to go into details. There are some interesting idiosyncratic features of these letter forms. We're going to look into the alternate shapes, size and position variations, ligatures, and symbols. So as you can see, I was able to spot different versions of these letter forms, and especially zeta becomes very interesting and tricky. So, but we're going to look into that a bit more in detail. So as you can see here, in one line, you can spot two different types of alpha. Um, there are speculations, epigraphists, archaeologists. They don't know exactly why would you have two different styles of alpha. But one archaeologist had a really good and interesting and very simple reasoning. Maybe that stone carver finished the work of the day, and then the following day, someone else comes and continues the work. And they can have slightly different styles, but in one line, to see these letter forms I find it fascinating because it makes the reading experience really dynamic. And yeah, we're going to look into the zeta issue. The original zeta shape is in the shape of this interesting this boxy squarish format design, but this was completely illegible for Greek readers. I mean, obviously, if you know Greek from your heart, then you can maybe pick it up from the context. You can imagine, oh, what is that letter form? Well, if you can read it and you can guess which letter form that is. But overall, apparently, speaking with multiple Greek type designer friends, it was not legible. So what I did is that I found an interesting and a very rarely seen Xi shape, as you can see on the right-hand side. And then what I did is that I chopped the top part and the left bottom part of that strange Xi that I saw, and I turned that into a modern zeta, a zeta that feels and that is closer to its modern version, which is it has the diagonal axes. Um, these omicrons were very interesting features of the typeface because in the stone inscriptions I saw these size variations, and that is not necessarily for aesthetic reasons. It's so that you can align the stone and you can do proper justification. And here you can see that the amount of space, as you can see here, the amount of space that is saved by using these small omicrons. And it's actually, omicron is actually an O and a micro, so it's the small o. So it also makes sense that you make smaller micro versions of those. So I designed the typeface and I programmed simple OpenType rules. So when you're using this typeface in Illustrator or in InDesign, you can easily change them. And the PC was really interesting. This was a suggestion that came from the well-known typography author, Robert Bringhurst. When I shared the project with him, he was very excited about it. And then he said, why don't you also make that huge, that giant, beautiful PC there? So I also designed an alternate shape. So if you choose, you can shift from that PC to the default version, which is aligned on the top. Then this is, I think, one of the most fascinating part because as you can see, when the stone carver starts carving, sometimes they may not be able to fit all the words that they want. So again, they do this thing called that is stacked letter forms. So they stack these letter forms that I was like really fascinated. And I saw that phi was a very smaller version of phi and a smaller version of omicron sitting on mu. So which just makes here reading a telephone becomes the amount of space that you can save again becomes amazing. And here Romeon and the amount of space that becomes is just excellent. The amount of space that you can save. So I designed these, and these are again some open type features. So when you're using the font, you can switch to these. Strategos here is also really interesting because I haven't seen before a 3 ligature. So I also added that feature, and you can see again the amount of space that is saved. So these are really, they're not necessarily aesthetic and romantic touches, they're rather pragmatic decisions. And this is the way how it looks like. So with the alternate version on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, what I call Pergamon default version. And as you can see here, the Latin letters, I did not design, I did not finish the Latin version yet. So I'm still working on it. But so that's why I used for my book project, which I will mention a few in minutes, I borrowed basically, I found another typeface that I thought it was compatible with this Pergamon font. Yeah, so this is the way how it feels like. And obviously it's a typeface, it's a display typeface. So it's a typeface that its intention is not necessarily setting reading experience like this. Nobody would read this way, obviously. But why not? Maybe a book cover. As a designer, maybe you're designing some, I don't know, some interesting books, and then you can play with this on the book cover. And this is the original stone that my favorite stone in the Asklepion, which actually became the base stone of the whole project, because I took 80% of the letterforms from this stone. And setting some other examples. Of course, these symbols. These symbols were very interesting, and and most type designers are very nerdy about, and they're very excited about adding some emojis and some dingbats and some symbols. So I added the floral heart symbol because I found it again in the North Stoa, and this beautiful grape bunch that I found again somewhere in the Acropolis area. And then I also added that as a symbol, so you can access it when you use the font. And then Pergamon turned into from two-dimensional font into a 3D wearable item. This is my partner. She runs Emma Craft, which is a jewelry studio based in Istanbul. And she took the letter forms and then she turned them into these bangles where it reads Yanake san krasi, women like wine. She wanted to honor aging, and she finds as you age, it's like a beautiful wine. It was an analogy that she wanted to make. And she turned them into these really I brought the item with me. I was going to show it to you in the audience. I was going to have it to you. I was going to give it to you. It's a big bangle. I could have actually brought it now, but now that I'm doing online, I was like, there's no point for me to bring it. But now I could have actually used it. But it's a big bangle that sits like this, and then this whole project needed a documentation. And so I designed this book and I wrote this book and published it from a Turkish publisher. It's in 2 languages. It's in English and Turkish. maybe someone in the audience will translate the English into Greek, and there will be also a Greek version of it. So that is going to be from me, and that's about the whole project. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Onur, for this great presentation. It's been really an honor to be with us, even only online. For sure, we're going to invite you again with no trouble this time, and you will be with us showing your amazing typefaces and an amazing job that you did preserving those so important typefaces. And thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So it's a deal. We'll have you next time. Okay?
Hopefully, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.